So I'm really glad you all are here. I'm going to send around a sign-in sheet. My name is Gina Kessler-Lee, and I'm one of the librarians here. I'm the Instruction and Outreach Coordinator and a big fan of research managers. But I'm hoping that by today, each of us gets a chance to download it, install it, play around with it, and sort of try out some of the more, like the different processes of basically doing all you can with these research managers, and I'll go over what that is in a sec. And there will be lots of time for questions and getting into the advanced features too. So maybe we could just go around and do some quick intros. Whoops. Go. Oh, right. I'll tell you what the agenda is, and then you can better introduce yourself knowing this. So we'll start out with some introductions, and then I'll go over quickly what are these research managers, or sometimes called reference managers or citation managers. We'll talk about the two different ones that I like the best and I'm going to be presenting on today, but we'll also talk about what the other options are out there in case you or your disciplines prefer others. We'll go through installing them, saving and organizing sources, how to import sources that you've already saved maybe somewhere else on your computer or in a different app, how to highlight and annotate your sources in these apps, how to share your sources with a group, and how to cite the sources that you found. So I'd love to know, be able to tailor it a little bit more to where everyone is at in terms of your expertise with these tools already, and also in terms of just sort of what you want to get out of this. So if you could introduce yourself with your name, your role, your department, if applicable, and what is your system for managing research currently, just a couple words about that. I'm curious about how people do things. And then if there's anything specific you came on to learn today. So you're always welcome to make an appointment with me or whatever librarian works with your department if you want to know more about any of these tools after today. So what are these things that we're talking about if you don't have any exposure to them? Again, they can go by multiple names, but basically they're apps that serve a number of functions. So usually they help you save research that you find from around the web, or library databases, or a number of places. They can help you organize it into different folders and projects and sub-projects. They have capabilities for you to share the sources you found with a project team or sometimes multiple teams. And we'll talk more about what the limitations are in the different apps and the free versions versus the paid versions and such. And most wonderfully, they help you cite the sources that you found at the very end and easily switch from one citation style to another. And do often the in-text citation as well as your bibliography at the end. There's also other features that come with different ones. So we'll be talking about how Mendeley is also a research network. It's a sort of website too, where you can follow different groups that are working on topics that you're interested in. You can also post your research if you have the ability to do so in terms of copyright and stuff. If you can throw that PDF of your article up there, then it can get shared a lot more on Mendeley than it does by just sitting in a little print journal somewhere that you library subscribe to. So there's a lot of possibilities with these research managers. The two that I just happen to be most familiar with, kind of because they were super popular when I was in grad school, I think, are Zotero and Mendeley. And so those are the ones that I'm going to be talking about. And they seem to be pretty popular in different academic communities as well. And we hear good things from our students and faculty who use them. So those are the two that we're going to talk about today. And we'll go over sort of what's the difference between them and then what other options are out there that you may want to consider if you need something super specific. But basically, some of the key differences. Zotero is open source. That means the code is out there for anyone to see and add to and manipulate. Whereas Mendeley got bought by Elsevier, so it's part of big science now, I guess. And that, could mean that things change in the future or not. It's sort of up in the air. But currently, sort of the features that they offer, Zotero gives you, so they both operate in a freemium model, so they both have limited services that you can use for free, which are services that have totally sufficed for me over my years of doing research. So, but we'll talk about what those limitations are. With Zotero, for the free model, you get 300 megabytes of storage. With Mendeley, you get 2 gigs of storage. So if you're saving, you know, PDFs that might be like 1 megabyte each or something, you can think about how many then you'd be able to save before you have to start paying. And they offer sort of different ways of sort of interacting. So with Zotero, they have a version you can just access your library on a website in the cloud from anywhere. You can, there's also a desktop app, which is really good to work in tandem with a sort of bookmark list sort of thing. We'll talk about this bookmark button that's operates in Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. Mendeley has the same options except for Safari. Then there's, in terms of if you want to like read on the bus on your phone, like start annotating your papers and reading some of the stuff that you've saved in your library, there is an app called Papership that works with your Zotero library or Mendeley, and then Mendeley has their own mobile app. There's also, then when you're going to cite your sources, if you're a Google Docs user, there's a plugin for Zotero, but not for Mendeley. So with Mendeley, you kind of have to, in the app, just sort of like copy your citations and paste them in. And we'll show you sort of how those work, and you can try them out. And I've personally found, and I hear this a lot from others, that Zotero is a little better at extracting metadata from a variety of sources. So when you bookmark something from the web or you drag in a PDF, it's really good at figuring out what the title is and who the author is and all that. Mendeley is a little glitchier at that. So if you really want to get those citations right and not have to be filling in bibliographic data on your sources, like filling in who the title, what that title is and what journal it came from and all that, Zotero is better for that. But Mendeley has some other options that are really nice. So, but going next, the other nice thing about Zotero over Mendeley is that you can share articles with an unlimited number of private or public groups. So if you drag a bunch of PDFs in there and you have a research team that's spread around the world and there's 5 of you all working on a research project, all of them can access those PDFs. With Mendeley, if you just have the free account, you can only share articles with one private group of up to 3 people. So you can share the reference, your list of sort of what your sources are, but you can't actually share the full PDFs with them. And the really nice thing about having PDFs in Mendeley is in Mendeley, you can actually highlight and annotate directly in the app. So we'll show you what that looks like. But with Zotero, you can open the PDF, but it just opens on your computer. And if you do any highlighting or annotating actually in the PDF, your research partners won't see that because it's just kind of saved on your computer. So Mendeley has much better highlighting and annotation tools, but your research partners won't necessarily see those highlights and annotations. And it's worse at extracting metadata from certain kinds of sources. So those are sort of the pros and cons. Mendeley also, again, has this website that's more of a research network. You can also find like careers, like there's job postings and all kinds of stuff on there too. And I think Zotero, actually, I started to see that there was something like that that they're getting into, but that's not what they're known for.
Question?
Yeah.
Can we import PDFs from papers into both of these?
I believe so. I'm not that familiar with papers exporting options, but as long as you can export into a, so you can at least export your sources, like the citation info. In terms of the PDFs going over, that might be a little more difficult, but if you do have your PDF sort of, if paper saves them in one folder, it would be very easy to just drag those all over. But what you can do with pretty much any citation tool is export a .ris file or a bibtex file, and then just in Zotero or Mendeley, click import and find the file, and it'll just pull in all your sources. So yeah, but the PDFs might require some manual work to drag over. So there's lots more. I won't necessarily go into all of these, but I just wanted to acknowledge that these aren't the only 2 fish in the sea. A lot of you have used EndNote or Papers, except some of these require subscription. Some of them are preferred by different disciplines. I will make a note that Academic Writer is one that the American Psychological Association produces, and it requires a subscription, but we have a subscription. So you can use that, and it actually, you can search within, like, you can search for articles that are in the APA databases within the app, and sort of do your writing in the app too. You don't need to use Word or Google Docs or anything, and it'll also help you pull in the sources that you save. So it's kind of an all-in-one thing that's cool if you use APA style. Yeah, Calvin.
Is that on the library's webpage?
Yeah. If you do a search for academic, if you click on databases on our homepage and then search for academic writer, you can find that. Yeah. Yeah, please. Yes.
One thing is that APA is doing an edition this fall, and I'm not sure when academic writer is going to publish this edition. They said 2020.
Right.
And they went to 2020. And the other thing is I have had students who've used the template for writing APA style paper who had a little bit of trouble moving that into Word and back and forth. Even though they say you can do it, but it's kind of not as easy as they think it is.
Not in APA's core competencies, perhaps. Yeah. So I'm just going to go through a quick demo of here's, if you're doing this in Zotero or if you're doing this in Mendeley, here's how you would go through the steps of saving and citing your research, and then we'll go through it step by step so you can give it a try. If you want, while I'm sort of going through this, you could get the installation process started if you want, whereas you're going to want for both of these a desktop app and a browser button. If you go to their websites, they will tell you what you need. They'll be like, okay, you're on a Mac using Safari, download these apps. But you just Google Zotero or Mendeley. Based on this chart, if you have an idea about which one you'd like to try out first, you can go ahead and start installing those on your computers. These two computers already just have Zotero on them, so you can use that when it's open. But for the rest of you, feel free to get the installation process started now. You can always uninstall if after this you're like, no, this isn't for me. So so if you were going to do that, right, you can just Google Mendeley or Zotero, and what will happen is it will bring up, well, for me, it brings up my newsfeed because it knows I have them and I'm logged in. But normally, if you're a new user, it will show you the different options that you can download. So you'll notice here, both for Zotero and for Mendeley, there's a desktop app. So that looks something like this. So this is Zotero. And it's a program that actually will run on your computer and has your library in a very easy to navigate sort of folder system, just like your Finder or whatever your folders are on your computer. It sort of follows that model. And it works best if you have this open and running when you're saving stuff from around the web. Because let's say I'm on the library website, I want to know, seeing the Supreme Court case about DACA in the news, I want to start doing some more research about, how our students might be impacted or something like that. I'm on the library website seeing what does the library have about DACA. Got all kinds of academic journal articles here. Let's say I wanted to, save, I'm trying to find one that also, let's say I want to save this one. It's got a PDF with it. I've read the abstract. I want to save this for later reading. What I can do now that I have, get out of the way. Now that I have this Zotero sort of bookmark button installed is anytime I'm on something that can be saved, it will give me the option to save to Zotero. I'm sorry that that's like really small. Let's see if I can, it won't let me. Okay, everything else bumps up, but not the button. Anyway, there will be a little button that shows what kind of thing it is too. So if I'm in the library catalog and I have a book that I want to save about, let's see, DACA, this, sure, maybe this one. Then, oh, it's not working here. On other websites, on like WorldCat, oh yeah, there we go. Now it changes into a little book icon. It recognizes it's a book and it's gonna save it in Zotero accordingly. So I'll go ahead and save this book to Zotero, and I'm gonna save it to my Reference Managers Workshop project, and I'm gonna save this article in the Lewis and Clark Law Review. And I'm going to save that to my reference managers workshop. And now when I go into Zotero and I go into my reference managers workshop, you can see, except you can't because it's very small. But let's see if there's a way. The text is still going to be really small. You would be able to see that the sources that I've saved are already in here. So, and it's got my book and it's got my article. And with my article, it has the full text that you can maybe see, make out here, that there's a tiny little PDF that comes with it. So then if I want to read it, I just open it right there and it opens on my computer in my preview PDF viewer. So that's how easy that part is in Zotero. And then when I'm ready to make my bibliography, so let's, yeah. Question. Sure. Yeah.
Notes in here, you're reading text.
Yes. So Mendeley does this a lot more smoothly, but what you can do in Zotero is you basically like add a sort of post-it to the source instead of making notes inside. What you can do is if you say open the PDF in an app that does allow you to highlight or add notes, and then you save it to your computer, then you can like drag it back into Zotero, and the version with the highlights will be saved in there in the notes. So if you do have a program that you like annotating PDFs with on your computer, you can like save the PDF to your computer and then drag it back in under the line where it has your source. So, yeah. So if you do, the other thing you can do, so yeah, if, like I wanted to make a note on this book, for instance, gonna add a little child note. That means it's like a note about this source. Then I can say like, you know, page 35 has useful info or whatever. And then if you, I believe this searches all, let's see. Let me put a weird word in there. Oops. Documented. Let's say. Yeah, so it looks like it does search in your notes too. So that's nice. The other thing you can do is add tags. We'll talk about this in a minute. You can add tags. So if you have a custom sort of whatever, like if one section of your paper is all about one topic, you can tag different articles that all address that topic with that tag, and then you can use filters and searches to search for that tag as well. So, so that's Zotero. Now that I'm going to cite my sources, there's a couple ways to do it. I can either do it like by source by right-clicking, and then you can click Create Bibliography from Item, and just, you know, if you just have one source that you're citing, you can choose your citation style. You can output it as either your in-text citation or your bibliography, and then just copy it to clipboard and go into whatever app you're using to write your paper and hit paste. We'll go through this step by step, but this is just me sort of giving an overview of what these things can do. However, the fancier way to go about it is if you, let's see, where's my, go back to my window that's in the other screen. So here's my source as you're writing. And then what you can do is with Zotero, again, Mendeley doesn't have integration with Google Docs, but it does with Microsoft Word. With Zotero, I can say add edit citation. I can, it'll come up in a sec. Oh, yes, my citation style is APA, let's say. All right. All right, and then I'd say DACA, find me that source that I had on DACA, that one, enter, and here's my source. It puts the in-text citation in, which is very nice, but in-text citations are pretty easy usually. So then insert page break, and here's my references. And now the cool thing is Zotero, add edit bibliography. Pardon it for a sec while it finds the source data. And voila, all the sources that I've cited in my paper so far will appear in my bibliography. So you can keep sort of refreshing that as you go, and it will keep adding the sources as you cite them in text. So it's pretty nice that it can do that. There's also ways for you to just export your entire bibliography instead of one source at a time. You can highlight all your sources or an entire folder within this app and then just tell it to export a bibliography of all your sources if you work in an app that isn't Word or Microsoft, that isn't Microsoft Word or Google Docs. They also both support LibreOffice, which I hadn't really heard of or used much before, but that's an open source word processing tool. So if you happen to use that, they both work with that as well. So that's Zotero. And Mendeley is pretty similar. I forgot to open that up. I got distracted in the middle of setting up. Mendeley is pretty similar. It's, you know, got a very similar layout where your folders and stuff are over on the left. The sources in each folder or in your whole library are sort of in the center, and then the details about each source appear on the right. But the main difference here is that you can actually, so this opens in Mendeley Desktop. The PDF is still within the app Mendeley. And then I can use Mendeley's tools to highlight, and I can add a comment, and then that stays in there. And so I can just close out of there. It's in there. If I open it again within here, my highlights and, oh, there it is. My note are still there. And again, you can share, you can create a group that shares your sources with up to 2 other people, so 3 members total. And so they'll be able to see your highlights and your notes too, and their highlights will appear in a different color, so you can track who's highlighting what sections and making notes in what sections.
Sorry, how did you open that?
How did I open the PDF? Yeah, so I was just, I had saved this in the same way. I can go through the process of actually saving it too, like I did with the other one. Let me open my Firefox I put.
So with Mendeley, it's better to use Chrome or Firefox than Safari?
Yes, with Mendeley, they will, the web importer only works with Chrome or Firefox.
Okay.
So what you would do if you don't have the web importer, and the web importer, again, is this little button, just like in Zotero. If I, let's see, can also work with Google Scholar. So if I wanted to save this source from Google Scholar and put it in my Mendeley folder, I just clicked on the little Mendeley button in the upper right, and it's making me sign in. Let's hope I can remember my login.
Yeah. The Mendeley little.
Oh yeah. So if you go to Mendeley.com and do the install thing.
Right. I've done that, so I opened it up on.
So then you need to also, they'll prompt you to download a few different things. The first main thing they prompt you to download is the desktop version, but let's download. They also have get tools and add-ons to further enhance your research. The web importer is that button that lives in your browser, and they should walk you through the instructions for that. And then the citation plugin is what you use to connect it with Word. And then they also have mobile apps that they remind you about, so you can download those on your devices too. Thank you for those questions. So, yep, here now I've downloaded it. I can click save. It's and download, it's saving my PDFs too. And then in Mendeley, here's my, in Mendeley, the other thing is often you need to click sync. It does it every now and then, but it doesn't refresh as frequently as Zotero does. So now here's my becoming documented source. That's weird that that was my sample like keyword that I had before. I was like, is that even like a thing that people talk about? So there it is. So then here's all my sources. If I want to go ahead and cite one of these. I do have the option to, again, just copy a formatted citation and then paste it into Word, or in Word, let's zoom in on this. You can also then go to your references tab. I believe it depends where this shows up is different if you're on Mac versus PC. But my Mendeley tools, insert and edit citation, and then insert bibliography are under my references folder. Zotero, on the other hand, if you're using that with Word, gets its own little menu bar. So so we can go through sort of trying those out. Someone on the forum when they RSVP'd also was interested in how to use this stuff with footnotes. So if you're the footnotes type, you can, insert footnote number 1 and then put your citation in there, I believe. I'd have to dig deeper into how to make sure it doesn't appear just like in parentheses, but maybe if we do Chicago style or something, then it will allow me to do that. It's formatting citation. Where are you going? Oh yeah, so it put it in the in-text citation. I'd have to double check how to do it in the footnotes. It might just be doing it with insert bibliography instead. So we'll need to Google around for that. The other nice thing about this is that both these tools is that they have very robust support online in terms of tutorials and guides to all their different features. So if you have a question, you can just Google it, like Zotero Chicago style footnote or whatever, and it will probably have an answer for you somewhere. So that's sort of an overview of what they can do. So do y'all want to go through it sort of together, step by step, and try it out yourselves, or are there any other questions at this point? Yeah.
Did you want to show in Zotero?
Yeah.
I only know the Zotero.
Yeah.
But when you're in multi-search in our database, and you're in the list of articles, you can click on the list and then it'll bring up and you can actually select from that list. You can select multiple items and have an import them into Zotero.
Okay. Yeah, that's not something that I do very often. I would love to know more about that. So when I'm back in my results list here.
You go back.
Yeah.
Right now.
There we go. Now select which items you'd like to add to your library. This pop-up must have been appearing somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right.
I actually just saw the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And then okay, and then it puts them on.
Just add all of those.
Delightful. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Also, I just wanted to comment that when I've shown this Zotero for the faculty, I've shown Zotero to students in classes. I have twice, Sue and I once, and me on my own one, had a student cry.
Yeah.
Literally cry.
With happiness that they now know about it, or with
I know about this.
Yes, I've gotten all the why didn't you tell me about this as a freshman? So yeah, it's definitely very useful for our students at a variety of stages. Okay, so if I go, any other question, or yeah, you had a comment or question? Yeah.
Had a quick question.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on the agenda, so I was curious. Because I use Python for web scraping, so I was curious, and I know that they have packages that you can install for Python that's compatible with Zotero as well as Mendeley.
Mendeley.
So I was curious if you were going to touch base on that, or if you were even familiar with it. Not that I could just do my research.
I was not. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
No
yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. I'd love to talk to you more about that though and learn more about it. But I don't know.
You know, the question. So
yeah.
you have articles that you put into, if you're on the web, so like on the Chrome for Mendeley, and then I imported some PDFs, but if I want them to show up in my Mendeley desktop,
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So usually it's just a question of clicking the sync button because it doesn't, I think, you know, it does it when you open it, but I'm not sure if it does it like every few minutes or ever.
Oh, I see.
So there's a little sync button up there and then it should appear. Yeah. So if you do that, then it doesn't. Other questions things people are encountering? Yeah, and I didn't show what happens with websites, but you know, it's pretty much the same thing. So if I was just on, you could do Wikipedia even, or whatever. If you want to save this, you can go ahead and, again, my Zotero button is right there. And it'll pull it in. Sometimes for kind of wonky websites with inconsistent metadata, you do want to make sure that it pulled in the title and the author and the date when it was last edited and stuff like that, and double check that in your research manager. Mendeley is pretty good about prompting you if it recognizes that a bunch of fields are blank that you might want to like look these over. So, but here it's got my deferred action for childhood arrivals, encyclopedia article, correctly no single author since it's Wikipedia, and then it came from Wikipedia and the date and all that stuff. So it's pretty nice. So you know, you can use this, but there's a lot of other options for bookmarking web sources too. So you can always talk to the tech bar or us if the majority of the things that you're finding are things from around the web. It's not necessary, I guess, to use something this full and featured unless you're also citing those sources a lot, in which case then it is nice to use Zotero or Mendeley if you're creating slideshows or things like presentation stuff. Let's see, what else? In terms of switching citation styles, the other nice thing with Mendeley, for instance, is then if I wanted to change my citation style from APA to Chicago, it didn't make a big change, but it did, let me see, MLA is like a little different. There we go. It goes ahead and you can just switch in the menu which style you want, and it changes all your citations to the correct style within Word or within Google Docs too. So that's very handy. And in your whatever system you're using now, if you're using EndNote, look for an export option and then look for an import option in Mendeley or Zotero. So in here, it's an example of import, export, anything. You can see here that it will import a bib text file, EndNote XML or RIS. And so you can, and they even have a special one for Zotero library. So you can choose to export in any of these options if you are switching over to Mendeley. And you can try them out and see like which one gets the most like the best metadata transferring over. Yeah.
So we've gone over, you are online on a different computer, how you can use it, or if you're signed in like a Chrome, you can use your plugin. And then presumably it'll sync the next time you're on your desktop. But is there sort of the opposite of that? If you're on a different computer, can you access your bibliography?
Very good question. So yes, you can. And it's by going to their website basically and logging in. And now I can see my whole, if you look for the option for library, this is true for Zotero as well. And then here are all my sources, and I can just go ahead and read them if I'm, on a computer somewhere else and don't have the option to actually download the full like desktop app and don't want to use that. So.
Do you know what about short titles?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not sure that I've had to do that before. So let me see. Let's see. What would that be like? Chicago, especially, that is common with that. And let's see. This is Chicago author date. I wonder if they'll do Chicago full note. Or note and full note? Sure. So let's see. Go back to Word. Okay. So, oh, there we go. All right. So then if we cite the source again, look, more footnotes. And then if we say, let's see, insert citation, and I'm going to do this one again. Yeah, it did short version the next time. Good question. I'm learning more about these all the time. I tend to use, Zotero and Google Docs, and for very specific projects. So, I know some use cases and not all of them. Oh yeah, the sign-in sheet. Yeah, okay, so we can, with the remaining 10 minutes, make sure that you all sort of get started, at least downloading what you need to download. If you feel like you've gotten all you need to, by the way, you're welcome to go, but if you wanna play around with some of the different features, now is a perfectly good time to do so, and we can walk through installing and saving and citing and all that together, if you would like to. The other sort of cool features that just highlight very briefly. So Mendeley has this research network. If you just go on their website, it will suggest articles that are in line with other articles that you've saved that you might want to read. It will show you people, scholars to follow whose research might be in line with the kinds of things you've saved or the people you're already following. You can also set up a watch folder. So if you're more of a downloading PDFs onto your desktop person and looking at them later, you can just keep that folder on your desktop or wherever. Every time you put a PDF in there, if you've told Zotero or Mendeley to watch it, they'll put it in your library automatically. So you don't have to use that bookmarklet button every time if you prefer to just save things to a folder on your desktop or on your computer. There's also, if you have saved some sources and you just have the reference information, but you don't have the PDF, Zotero has a locate option where it'll try to find it on the web for you. The library lookup I don't think works with our particular sort of, with our systems that we use here. So I wouldn't try the library lookup, but some of the other ones like View Online and stuff like that will work. And yeah, that's about switching reference managers and exporting the file. Oh, and also if you do have time, I'll also send this out for the folks that did have to leave early. Just a little reflection evaluation about what you learned today, how this could have gone better, what questions you still have. And if you all would like, before you leave, to share with me what follow-up materials would be helpful, or hey, could you check in with me in a month and like have a one-on-one appointment so that we can go over this again, I'm happy to do that too. So, questions, comments, or shall we just go through step by step? Yeah.